So, as she said, today's topic is really going to be covering these two separate applications that we have for managing the connections between Outlook and Dynamics 365. And I know with a lot of our customers, there's been a lot of confusion. We have two things that are essentially doing the same, tasks and everything like that. How do we decide which one's right for us? What are the key differences? Especially since they're almost named identically, it's been a bit confusing. So really, that's what I'm here to help clear up. So with that, let's move into the goals for today's webinar. It's really the goals that we're trying to achieve here. The key thing, again, is to understand the difference between the web app and the installed client. Many of you, I suspect, are going to be on this installed client. So that's as we're going through, and I'll explain this a bit further, but when we're saying the client, if any of you have been using CRM since I think it was released originally for CRM 4.0 or even 3.0 for the Outlook client, that's kind of what we're talking about. This is the one that's stepped up incrementally through each version that we've gone through. And then just recently, we've released this web app. So out of nowhere, we have two applications. So I want you to understand what the key differences are between the two. And really, what I want you to be able to do is decide which application is better for your organization. And I'll give you a little bit of a hint out the gate. It could be both potentially, but I don't think it'll be too difficult for you guys to decide. I think you'll be able to understand where you might want to go from here, or at least be able to understand as far as next steps, how we get to whichever application we need to be using. So I think we're all in varying degrees of familiarity with the client, the app, or neither of them. So really today is to help understand the key differences between the two, help you understand, and then decide next steps. So our agenda, we're going to start off by looking at what they are, and I'm going to be doing all slides today. So we're going to look at what the client and the web app are, and we'll take an in-depth look at those applications on what their strengths and weaknesses are specifically. So we're going to go through the advantages and disadvantages of both and give you a general understanding of what they are. And then again, what we're hoping to do is you'll have conclusions on determining which one is appropriate and when to use each of them. And as kind of a spoiler for today, for any of you who've been on my previous webinars, I don't like to waste people's time. I'm a firm believer that if I can tell you everything you need to know in about 20 to 30 minutes, then have follow-up conversations individually, we can do that. So this is going to be a shorter one today, but we are leaving time for questions and answers at the end, as well as actually throughout. So Ashley was gracious enough to stay on and be a moderator for the webinar, so she can, if any of you guys type in any questions as we're going, she can certainly ask those as we're going. Like I said, this is a much more informal, shorter one, so I'd be happy to ask any questions as we're going. So with that, let's get into what we're talking about today, and that's first, we're going to be introducing the applications. So before I even get into that, though, the key thing, if you've been on any demos with me or been on my other webinars, I typically spend 1 or 2 minutes on this slide. I just want to reiterate, what is our overall goal with these applications? So getting back to the ideology of this Dynamics 365 platform is it's this one Microsoft vision. We're trying to tie in these applications that you use every day. And specifically, we're talking about Outlook within the Microsoft Office platform. And that's going to tie into all your different Dynamics 365 components, right? So that's where, what we're really trying to do is create this integration between the two worlds of Office and Dynamics 365, and the Outlook app and client do that. So let's talk about what they both do. So overall, what are the key things that we're trying to do? And really the biggest thing is the tracking emails, right? So for any of you who've used either, you have that track the email into Dynamics 365. You can set it regarding your accounts, contacts, opportunities, leads, cases, etc. So that 1 or 2 clicks, taking that information from Outlook, this email that your customer sent, and tracking that into a centralized location, your Dynamics 365. So it's really the main goal. And again, you can do your appointments and tasks and all that as well. But really, there's the number one thing that everybody's asking for in a demo regarding these applications that are syncing to Dynamics 365 from Outlook. It's the tracking the emails. So you can also track contacts directly in Dynamics 365 as well. So if you've built out your contact list prior to installing CRM, or you have still have users that are kind of keeping their contacts there as opposed to tracking it in Dynamics CRM or Dynamics 365, you can do that as well. And then the other thing is just, again, where we have this one Microsoft vision, being able to tie the two applications together that with one click, open these related records also. It's one thing to port the data in, but having these shortcuts to make it feel like one application and really lower that user adoption. So really that's the idea here behind what the applications are here to do. So now that we've covered that, let's talk about what the key differentiators are. So on the left, we have the Dynamics 365 for Outlook client. This is the application. Again, it's been out for, I think, even over a decade at this point, but it's been incrementally upgraded and it doesn't feel like old technology. It's still actually a very strong piece of technology here that we have, but the main distinguishing fact is that it must be installed on an on-premise installed version of Outlook, if you will. So bonus points for anybody who guessed that that might just be a picture of my desk and my computer. That's what that picture is. You know, I go above and beyond for my webinars, so I even create my own stock photos. So if any of you guys want to borrow that stock image, I'll give it to you copyright free. But anyway, I digress. So the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, this is the one that's cloud-based. So as opposed to the Outlook client that you see here on the left, this is, you know, physically installed on Outlook. The app for Outlook, by being the cloud, allows it to be on any platforms, whether that's a computer, mobile phone, tablet, web-based. So all these different things, because it's in the cloud, it doesn't require you to install to each and every machine that you use. Okay, so those are the two main differences. And again, that Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, the one on the right, that one's only been out for about a year now. So it's gaining traction now, and it is phasing the other one out a little bit, but I would still say the majority of our customers are still sitting on the left. So with that, let's go ahead and start talking about the Dynamics 365 for Outlook client. And again, when I'm saying client, that is the one that you're currently, most likely most of you are currently using, that you're familiar with, that has been around for a long time. So this is a screenshot here of what it looks like. This is my actual email inbox. I have really, it looks exactly like Outlook as you're used to, with a couple key things. So in the top right, we have our tracking and setting regarding of the emails. We have the ability to convert them to cases and leads, pull these records up in Dynamics 365 directly from here, right? So this is, you know, just the standard function that you're used to. The other key thing, though, that this client does have is the ability to access every single record in CRM from directly within Outlook. So keep that in mind, that is one of the key differentiators, is that you can access your entire database from in there. So that's kind of just like an overview of it. Now let's talk about the specific advantages. And I already got to the first one. So if I were to click down here in the bottom left, I can see all of my leads. I can see all of my opportunities, my accounts. This is for the users that they don't even want to open a web browser. They just want to access everything within Outlook. And the client allows you to do that. Now, it sounds nice, and it does actually work pretty well. But I would honestly, I would say 20% or less, and it probably is even less, of our customers actually use it this way, and I'm actually included in that. I think I like having Outlook, and I like being able to track my records into Dynamics 365, but I also like having it in the web version. I think the window is just a little bit cleaner. It gives you a little bit more real estate, so I kind of use both. So understanding one of the biggest advantages to the Outlook client, if you do have users that want to only use Dynamics 365 within Outlook, then the client is really what you're looking for, because that is one of the key things, again, that differentiates it. Other quick advantages: no server-side synchronization is required. So I won't get too much into the technology. The majority of our customers at this point are able to have that set up, but for some of us on older Exchange systems, you might not be able to set up server-side sync. This allows you to still do all your email tracking by installing this Outlook plugin. Again, it's what's going to make it tough to switch off. For some people, it's just a familiar platform. This is what people are used to using. So that's always an obstacle. People like what they know. So it's a familiar platform. They've been using it for anywhere from 1 to 10 years. The offline capabilities, and really I probably should have had this one second, because this is really the next biggest advantage, I believe, of the client. So again, not too many in today's almost completely wireless world. It's not much of an issue. There's Wi-Fi everywhere. Many of us have hotspots. So we always kind of have access to the Dynamics 365, especially now that the mobile apps really come along. And we can use that on our phones even. We don't even need to mess with our computers when we're traveling. But for some of our customers that travel more rural areas, or for whatever reason, if you need to go offline, the client has the ability to sync a bunch of records from the Dynamics 365 database and bring them in, and then when you log back on, resync any changes you made. So let's say you added some tasks, let's say you made some changes to some of your opportunities when you were offline. Maybe you're on a plane, is probably one of the biggest, really the only time that I think I've used this, to be honest. Then when you log back in, it syncs right back up and puts your changes in. So that, along with the being able to access the full client within Outlook, I would say are really your two biggest reasons to stay or install the Outlook client. And then the last thing, it's got very robust syncing capabilities. I would say maybe 1% of our customers have really gotten in depth into complicated syncing rules, but it does have stronger syncing capabilities from what I've read. I've really even barely gotten into it to notice much of a difference. So let's talk about the disadvantages now. So again, we're still on the Outlook client. This is the installed on-premise version. It requires Outlook to be installed on the machine that you're using, and that's key. So if you think about my picture that I had at the beginning, it's a picture of my physical computer. If I were to go into our Royal Oak office and use a different computer that doesn't have the application installed, I'm dead in the water as far as trying to track my emails and tasks into CRM. So that's one of the key things. What also goes along with that, I'm going to actually skip a bullet here for now, is you need to have knowledge on how to install and troubleshoot. It's not that difficult, but we typically do spend part of all of our admin training when we are helping new customers stand up on showing them how to install this. And then for a select few, if they have certain software in place that causes problems with new applications, it can be a bit cumbersome. I would say the vast majority of our customers have no problem installing this and getting up and running, but we have had a couple that have just, it is new software that needs to be added on to your Outlook platform. There's always a risk involved, and it could even be for just one specific user, but it's extra effort with that install and having to troubleshoot. So along with installing it on every machine you need to use, you need to have the knowledge on how to do that and troubleshoot if you have any issues. Along with that, and this might be a bit more technical for some of the users on the call, but real quick, you all know that you have the ability to send emails automatically via workflows, right? So when we set these up, if you are utilizing CRM for Outlook to send these, you would actually have to have the user logged in to Outlook. So if you open up your computer, you actually have to have Outlook open for these automatic emails to be sent from you. So that's a key difference here. That's a disadvantage for the client. Now, if you are using this client but still also have server-side sync, which is possible, then you can disregard that. That is a way around it. But if this just assumes that your primary use or that your workflows are all written to send emails and you don't have server-side sync set up, you would have to be logged in. And then next, the last version of it, which doesn't apply to too many people, but certainly does for some, is it's not compatible with the Mac version of Outlook. So a lot of our users have been in a bad place there. So that is kind of the really wrapping up the Outlook client, the advantages, the disadvantages, and we'll come back to a bit of a summary on how you decide which one is best after we go through the next application. So the next one, and this is probably what most of you are more excited to see, is the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. This is the new one. looking at the names of the people attending. I don't think too many of you guys are using this yet. So this is it's again, it's not going to be anything revolutionary in the way of the interface because it's still Outlook, right? Everything still looks the same with the exception of this button up here and then this pane. So let's talk about the key advantages of it and get into, as I'm going through, you'll start to understand some of the functionality and how it works. So the Outlook app supports Outlook, the full client. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the add-ons or the add-ins that you can put into Outlook, and then you can go to the Microsoft store. That's where you can download the Dynamics 365 app. You also have the Outlook web access. So again, when we're talking about where you don't have to install a single thing, for those of you specifically on Office 365 that have this Outlook web access, basically you set it up within your Dynamics or Office 365 portal, saying that you allow this app to be pushed out, and then with that one click, anybody who goes to their Outlook web access now has the Outlook app or Dynamics 365 Outlook app added directly in. So there's not individually setting it up for each user. There's not installs for each user. It's just that one-time setup saying that these users all have access to it. And you know, what's been rolling out is this Outlook mobile. So being able to see Dynamics 365 from the Outlook mobile application as well. Okay, so that's the first one. The next key advantage is the Outlook app is pushed out. Actually, no, we already kind of talked about that. So I did both bullets in one. Let me move on to my next slide. So getting into a little bit of a, you know, contrary to the client, this app does not require the user to be logged in for those workflows to work. This is a key thing. So this is where we were talking about the server-side sync. So if you have an email sending automatic or workflow sending automatic emails, this is where you don't actually have to be logged in for these workflows to work. They're just going to send on their own. It also creates more shortcuts. So it's a little bit faster. Key things that would be included in that would be the phone call. So with one click, you can add a phone call, an appointment, a task without having to leave Outlook. And that's all done within this pane here on the right. So you can see this is just a sample email, for example. Because it's tracked to Jim Glynn, his contact information is stored here. If we actually had a phone number, it would show up here as well. So if you have the Skype for Business, you could simply just click that in order to pop up his phone number, and then off you go. So you don't have to open CRM even to get his phone number. So that's extremely nice. That by far, I think, is the functionality that I would use the most, because while it's still really quick to click the View in Dynamics 365 button on the Outlook client for us, and then you have the phone number there, to have the email here, then with one click to open up the Dynamics 365 pane, being able to see their phone number right there, it's really nice, especially for those of you who don't like to put your phone number in your signatures. So we all know those people, and that's where this really comes in handy. So, and then the other things that I was talking about, though, this plus button right here, you can simply do or use this to add a task, an appointment, or a phone call directly from this record. So again, that's resolving the issues of some of the Outlook clients. You don't have to install it. The users don't have to be logged in for the automatic emails to send. There's a limited amount of effort to push out to the users, and it is compatible with the Mac version as well. So that being said, let's sum up some of the disadvantages of this new application. So again, the server-side sync is required. If you can't set up your Exchange server, or you're not on Office 365 for your email, then you can't utilize this. You must have server-side sync. Again, the no offline capabilities, if that is important to you, then I would steer away from this, because you don't get this at all. And then no ability to control field level of synchronization. So I don't think this applies to probably anybody on this call, but for those of you who have set up very advanced synchronization rules, this would not be an app for you. So where do we go from here? And again, I told you this one's going to be short, so we're getting into our closing remarks here already. So which application is best? And there's not really a correct answer for that, but to be honest, it feels like, and actually if you read some of Microsoft's TechNet articles, they're essentially saying that the future is this Outlook web app, this new one. I truly believe that sometime over the next X number of years, it's going to completely phase the other Outlook client out. Now, it really just depends on where in that adoption curve you want to be. Like I said, this one's still pretty new. They're still releasing updates for the Dynamics 365 for Outlook client. So if you want to stay on that for a while until they keep shaking this out and adding more features, it's just fine. So which one is best? I would say that overall functionality, I think I like the web app a little bit better. And again, that is going to be the future. So for those of you who are really ready to jump on this cloud train and ride it all the way through, the web app is really what you're looking for. But again, to determine which one is best for you, you got to consider a couple features. One, the biggest thing is like I said, the offline. And do your users want to access CRM entirely from within the Outlook client? If that's the case, then you want the Outlook client. If those aren't so bad, then maybe we start playing around a little bit and see if we'd start getting you started on the web app. And the other big thing to keep in mind here is it doesn't have to be an all or nothing, just jump face first in the water here. You don't have to decide that your entire organization needs to be on the Outlook web app right now. You can start with a couple test users, see if they like it, see if it's something that would work, and then roll it out to the rest. Right. So again, that's hopefully gives you a good idea on determining which one is best for you. But the last part, how can you get additional information? Obviously, as your partner, we're here to support you. You can pick up the phone, send us an email anytime you want, and we're happy to help. But we also do have some self-service resources as well that I've sent Ashley before. So she's going to be following up with a blog post that kind of summarizes a lot of what I've talked about, the differences between the two. Some of you may have been looking forward to actually seeing a demo of the Outlook app. Our practice director, Brian DeWolf, has actually created a video a couple months ago that's on our YouTube channel that Ashley will send you a link to, so you can kind of see an outline or a little bit of an overview there. It's about 8 minutes long. It's not much of a time investment at all. And you can actually see it in action and understand a little bit more of how that actually works functionally. And then the last thing, I'll provide a TechNet article from Microsoft as well. If you feel like you need a little bit more in-depth specific things, so these are kind of the higher level items, I will attach a TechNet article comparing the two as well. So with that, I'm going to ask Ashley, do we have any questions thus far?
Thanks, Ryan. No, it doesn't look like any questions came through yet, which means that you've explained it extremely thoroughly.
I'd like to think so. It's not that broad of a topic. Obviously, there's some nuances to it. So if anybody does have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. Now's the time. Otherwise, we got some contact information on the screen that you can definitely feel free to reach out to me directly. Ashley and our marketing team monitors marketing at InterDynBMI.com. If you want more information about us as a whole, you got InterDynBMI or D365.com that will show more specific information about Dynamics 365 specifically and what our offerings are there. So if no questions, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up here. So still none?
Nope. So thank you, Ryan, for giving us this great overview, and thank you everyone for attending today. You'll see email from me shortly with the recording and the resources that Ryan talked about.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.